Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch random movies and then talk about them. With me, as always, is the impeccable, the incredible, the Starship Troopers to my showgirls, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Sadin. How you doing, Kyle?
Doing good, killing bugs.
Yep, definitely not space Nazis.
Not at all. I'm doing all right. Today's episode is brought to you by Stamp Collections, because we're the podcast that can help you infiltrate and defeat the Nazis.
Yes, all thanks to the power of stamps.
As long as you got the Queen stamp, you're golden.
So in case you didn't realize it, I assume this was actually like a prequel to the movie Charade, because that's also about stamp collecting.
Oh, nice.
No, in case you didn't guess it by the intro, we are watching a Paul Verhoeven film.
Indeed. And not an American Paul Verhoeven film. His first one back in the Netherlands. Holland?
Yes.
I always get so confused because they're called the Dutch, but it is Holland, right? Or is it just the Netherlands? I don't know.
Holland is the older name. I think the Netherlands is the more recent one.
But anyway, it's his first foray back into filmmaking, Dutch filmmaking, after 20 years in America. And it's called The Black Book from 2006.
Yep.
And
the Black Book is the Black Book is the Book of Mormon. Who would have thought?
I'm sorry, did I say The Black Book? It is not The Black Book, it is Black Book.
Yeah, it's just like Facebook. You drop the, it's cleaner.
I got on the Facebook today.
Yes.
I had to see what my family was up to.
Hey, I'm sure you remember back when it was called the Facebook, because you're old.
I remember back when I was on MySpace.
Nice.
And you chose who your top 5 friends were.
And you could play a song so that every time someone visited your page, a song would start playing whether they wanted it to or not.
Oh, you better believe it. I had a song loaded in there. I don't remember what songs I used on that, but yep. I remember the old MySpace pages.
Anyway, this movie's about World War II.
Nazis and whatnot. And
okay, so yes, this is about a Jewish woman hiding in the Netherlands, and then she ends up seeing an opportunity to help join the Dutch resistance and infiltrate the Nazis and try and be a spy and help fight them from the inside.
There you go.
Yep.
And there you have it.
Yep.
And we're done. No.
Yep.
Yeah, so this was a 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yep. Excuse me.
And I don't think I felt the length that much.
I did a little bit, but also that's because I had to watch it over multiple times.
Oh yeah, so sometimes it's hard to find a 2.5 hour block to just sit and watch a movie.
Mm-hmm.
What was this streaming on again?
I watched it on Tubi.
Okay. I forgot because it's been a couple weeks since I actually watched it because we had, a canceled podcast. So we had to come back. But I also didn't watch it on streaming, even though it is on streaming. I rented it because, here's the thing. I rented it because I wanted to watch any special features too, to maybe talk about them. And I popped on the commentary the night after I watched the movie. And I watched about an hour of the commentary and I couldn't take it anymore because it was just basically Paul Verhoeven explaining what was going on screen. And I'm going, yeah, I watched the movie. I want you to tell me tidbits about the filmmaking or about these characters or about something like
funny stories. How much of this was real and how much of it was fiction?
Yeah. Apparently a lot of it was based on different real people, but just kind of altered, there's amalgams of these 3 people are in this character and whatever. And so there's a lot of real stuff in there. He also wanted to get away from, after 20 years in Hollywood, he wanted to get away from the kind of enhanced effects and all that and go practical. So there is a scene where a bomb drops on a barn at the beginning. And that was an actual barn that was going to be demolished. So they had a plane fly over. That was a real explosion.
Nice.
So I thought that was interesting. And I don't know what made him go back after Hollywood. Maybe his last couple of movies didn't do as well. Showgirls, he's the first person to ever accept a Razzie.
Nice.
As worst director for Showgirls.
At least he was in on the joke, it seems, at least by that point.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he started out as a Dutch filmmaker, and apparently he was pretty lauded over there. Like they love his films. This one was actually submitted to the 2007 Oscars, but it was not nominated. And in 2008, the Dutch public voted this the best Dutch film ever.
Nice. I haven't seen that many Dutch films, but I can definitely see why people like it because it's got had some great character depth to it, especially to the main character, as well as some good twists, while also feeling like a good war thriller and survival thriller at the same time.
Yeah, and
And so
he
it's
described it.
romance.
He described it as not very Hollywoodian because he wanted to show the moral ambiguity of like what the real world is really like. So like nobody is fully good or fully bad. On
Well, some people are fully bad.
well, some people are, and like there's a lot of characters though that are like they're not completely good people and they're not completely bad people. Like so, which actually helped with the twists and turns
Hmm.
because you're like, okay, so she's infiltrating this Nazi here, but he seems to be treating her okay. But then you start questioning, is he the one doing this or is it someone in her group? And then, so like you really don't know. Because I didn't know until the end which character it was going to be that was the overall like, bad guy of the
Hmm.
film. But so basically this is set in the Netherlands and there was like apparently a Nazi outpost in The Hague. The Hague. Is that how you pronounce it? The Hague?
Egg.
Hague.
I don't know. We're
Um,
both probably wrong.
I probably am wrong, and I apologize to all Dutch people. But there was in the southern Netherlands, there was a place that was a little more free, so they were trying to like escape to there, and she meets up with this lawyer who gets her set up to get on a boat, and she ends up getting on a boat with her family, and then the SS comes and mows them all down, and so then she meets this resistance fighter, and they convince her to infiltrate the Nazi outpost. And so she has to pretend not to be a Jew and get in there. So she dyes her hair blonde, and then she, in true Paul Verhoeven fashion, we get to watch her dye her vagina blonde as well.
Thanks, Paul.
But that plays later because he's like, I like the scene where she goes in and infiltrates and like ends up in the bedroom with him, and he figures out right away that she's a Jew somehow, and then he's like, oh, you went so far as to die down there too. You're really dedicated to this. So but while she's in there, she gets in good with him, and then there's another girl that she meets who's in with like this nasty Nazi who's just a slimy person, and
And he's a Nazi.
he's a slimy person and a Nazi. He's slimy even for a Nazi.
Yeah. Nazis. I hate
I
these
hate these
guys.
guys. But they're trying to, get information on him. They plant a microphone in there, and then someone I forget what happened next. There was they tried to
So they
set
get
up the
this
one guy.
information, and then they set up kind of this rescue mission to rescue some people from the Nazis' control. Then turns out it's a setup, and the Nazis kill a bunch of the resistance fighters, and the woman thinks it's her fault.
It's a trap.
Exactly.
Yeah, so then the main slimy dirtbag Nazi kind of covers her mouth and talks into the microphone because he knows the resistance is listening, and he makes it sound like she was the
traitor
in the resistance group. And so she goes back and she's shunned and taken to prison and literally has shit dumped on her.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this scene where she has all that dumped on her, I think she had to go through a lot with that. And I think, if I remember correctly, I read somewhere that Paul Verhoeven allowed them to dump some on him too, just to, because she had to go through all that.
Make her feel better, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
But
That's good instead of, So what you're saying is he did that as a show of appreciation and wasn't, dare I say, trying to be abusive of his actors?
Yeah, and I don't know if he got dumped on him. He did something because of that scene that showed that he was sympathetic to what she had to go through in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, so basically, I don't know there's a lot of specific scenes to talk about. It really is a lot of twist and turning, and who's the bad guy, who's the traitor. Well, we know which Nazi is truly the bad guy. We just
Hmm.
don't know who's the traitor in the resistance until the end.
Yeah, so one thing I liked about it though is that sort of the third act, it almost becomes a different movie. It's like, okay, so I guess the Nazis are kicked out by I think it was the Allies.
Yeah, and it was a Canadian group, I think.
Yes. So then like her and her boyfriend, she says like, listen, my whole family was slaughtered. It's like, wait a minute, that has to be a setup, not an accident. So then they go back to the lawyer guy, and they find out, wait a minute, he was like helping the Nazis funnel these Jews into a situation where they could be killed and then steal all their stuff.
Yeah, so and they thought that maybe it was the lawyer guy because he's the one who sent everybody to the boats.
And he had the black book.
Yes, and that's where it all came down to is because you don't know about this black book until the very end of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
and you find out.
and
Sorry,
he gets killed.
and so you still don't know who did it because obviously it wasn't him now. But he had the black book that showed who did it, and so that's kind of in the end she was able to show the resistance. Hey, here's the black book that proves that I was not the traitor, and so she was able to live out her life.
And when they actually find the guy who did it, her and her friend, they try almost kind of flip the script on him because, like, okay, we're going to get you out of the country. But instead, they put him in the same coffin that they used to transport her. And then instead of leaving enough room to breathe, she at one point just kind of snaps and just tightens the coffin until he suffocates.
Yes, there's
That was pretty
Chekhov's
cool.
coffin
Yes, Chekhov's coffin.
because she gets transported into the Hague via a coffin. Like she had to pretend she was dead. They had to open the coffin and she had to be in there, silent, not breathing, and they're like, oh, she's super sick. She's got some sort of plague or something, and so they're like, okay, get the thing back on, get it back on. So, but yeah, then full circle, they get him out the same way, the traitor out the same way, and suffocate him in there. And then you also, so if we're going through Chekhov's list, you also have Chekhov's candy bar.
Oh, yes.
Because there was a whole scene about like rations and stuff like that, and some people had some candy bars, and they were getting rations to people because the resistance also had supplies coming in, being dropped to them, guns and all that stuff and whatever. But there was a scene with candy bars, and then later the someone shot full of insulin and to get killed, and they happened to have their candy bar ration with them still, so they could mow it down to counteract the insulin. So Chekhov's coffin and Chekhov's chocolate candy bar.
Amen.
But yeah, it's one of those movies that there's not a lot to say about it, and even though it is so long, but it is a good film, and I know this is gonna be kind of a short episode, but I think we could probably go into recommendations if you would recommend this.
Yes, I would definitely recommend this movie. Give it a watch. It's a solid film, a good thriller. And, if you like Paul Verhoeven, I think this is a bit more straightforward than some of his satirical work like in RoboCop.
Yeah, I think his actual Dutch films are a little more drama,
Mm-hmm.
and there's still touches. There's still Paul Verhoeven touches in there, but they're a little more straightforward. And I didn't mention yet, but I did not know this, but in his early career in the 70s, he made movies. He started out in the Netherlands making movies, and someone who starred in one or two of them, who then also came over to America, was a young Rutger Hauer. So, he became famous from his movies over there, and so we have Paul Verhoeven to thank for bringing Rutger Hauer over, I think.
Oh, boy.
Hey, I love me with some Rutger Hauer. But yeah, I'm going to say I also recommend this film. This was very good. Now we'll go into the double feature. What do we recommend to watch with it?
Okay, I'll go first. So for my double feature, I think we're going to stick a war movie with another war movie. I would go with The Dirty Dozen, because specifically the scene where they were like the rescue scene, the attempted rescue that went terribly wrong, that reminded me of The Dirty Dozen. So I thought, hey, I should watch The Dirty Dozen again. It's also another war movie, and this one is a case about a bunch of guys who are prisoners, and then they get taken out so then they can go on a mission.
Yes,
And
excellent
they're like,
film.
what is this? Some kind of Suicide Squad?
And then the Suicide Squad was born. Um,
Probably. My guess there's gotta be some inspiration there.
oh, I'm sure some of those old movies like that. I mean, it literally is. Hey, you've got to do this mission to get a pardon.
That's I'm sure.
And then the Suicide Squad just took it to do this mission to get a lighter sentence, and if you don't, we'll explode this bomb in your neck.
Mm-hmm.
But I
wish I would have giant starfish.
I wish I would have come up with something like that, because I didn't want to do it with another like Nazi drama or something similar. So like I didn't know what to put it with, because this can be a bit heavy. So if you watch a double feature, so I was just going to go with, just because I'll take any chance to recommend an American Paul Verhoeven movie, I'm going to say watch Black Book, and then to end the night on a little more fun, watch
Showgirls.
yes, watch Showgirls. Watch like a Total Recall, or maybe if you want to go with like the kind of war theme still from Paul Verhoeven, but more fun, satirical, then watch Starship Troopers with it.
Yes, and watch out for Starship Troopers. That has a Busey in it.
Oh no,
it's got Jake Busey.
The other Busey.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this is kind of a short one, but like I said, yeah, it was a good movie. I didn't have a lot to say about it. It was just it was well shot, well acted. The main woman, was it Clarice Van Houten or something like that, who played the main character Rachel Stein / Ellie DeVry.
Mm-hmm.
She was excellent, I thought.
Yes.
And yeah, good twists and turns. So I think we'll just leave it at that. Go out and watch this film. I would really recommend it.
Oh, for sure. So the question is now, Kyle, what are we going to watch next?
Well, let's turn to our wheel here and go all genres, 70 or better, and spin it.
I'm going to spin it with my Black Book.
Oh, hey, we got street smart Nathan Drake is recruited by seasoned treasure hunter Victor Sully Sullivan to recover a fortune amassed by Ferdinand Magellan and lost 500 years ago by the House of Moncada. I just talked about this in What You Watchin' episode. We're going to watch 2022's Uncharted, streaming on Netflix.
Huh. Well, if you liked it again, I guess we'll talk more about it. Who knows? I could love it or I could hate it.
You might. It is one of those that's kind of like just a quick, light action comedy adventure thing. So, I mean, yeah, you could either love it or hate it. I don't know. I had fun with it, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll watch it again just to refresh my memory, because it's been a few weeks since I've seen it. So
yes. Maybe this time the real treasure will be the friends we made along the way.
Exactly. All right. So I guess, well, first off, where can people find us online?
You can find me on Twitter at Noah_Saturn. That is spelled SATERN.
And I am at AwesomeKM. And we are on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. And you can email us, we don't know what to watch @gmail.com. Like, subscribe, comment, email us. Just interact. We'll dig it. And let us know what your thoughts are. Go watch Black Book. Let us know what your thoughts are.
Yes.
And until next time, we'll go into some uncharted waters.
Yes. I hope this film could be a national treasure or open up some sort of book of secrets.
Indeed.